Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Thursday, November 4th at 10:40 a.m. I'm early today. I usually do 11:30. Well, I don't even think I'm doing 11:30 anymore. I got to shake things up. I got a lot of stuff going on. I got work and stuff, but I also love to do what I do with the stream. I talk to you guys. At some point, I should get better camera equipment and better lighting in my office, but whatever. For the last however long, the stream has served us well. I've been able to do my talky talks, and you can see my face, and sometimes it gets all funky, but whatever. It works. So, point being, I'm content. And while we're going to shake things up, we're still able to do what we've done over the last 2 years, and me talk about all this journey of understanding these crazy assets. And this has got to be the craziest asset. I would have never understood this asset a year ago. I didn't. In fact, the asset was here a year ago. Ampleforth was here a year ago. I would have never. I didn't understand it a year ago, but I have some very interesting understanding of it currently. And you gotta divorce yourself from dollar denomination. It's actually quite spectacular when you look at a couple of different properties mutually exclusive. And we're going to dig in. We're going to talk about Ampleforth because, it's not about me selling an asset. The last thing I want to do is sell an asset to anyone. No interest in convincing anyone to purchase an asset. I'm actually more interested in telling people not to buy stuff. See, lighting in my office sucks. Oop, there you go. I reset it. I would rather convince people to take on less risk rather than more. And the vast majority of people that are going to be tempted by the amount of yield on Ampleforth are going to get totally steamrolled. You're not going to be prepared for the volatility. You put in 50 grand and all of a sudden your position's worth 25 grand, you're going to freak out and you're not going to understand. And that's not a good position to be in. So that's not a never invest when you can't afford to lose. No, I guarantee you at some point the position is going to decrease dollar denominated. But what I'm trying to understand, and what I am beginning to understand, is the cycles and long term and passive versus active portfolio management. And the more and more I think about this particular asset, the more and more I'm fascinated with it over a long time horizon. So let's pop it over to the main screen. Let's take a peek at who's in the stream. We got Chimpleton's in the house. Francisco, a pleasure. Crypto Bets, what's up? Kazan, good revenue streams to everyone here, lads. Yeah, we're doing pretty good lately. Restless Native, hello. P. Emmanuel, hello. Josh, give us another straight. Give it to us straight, Captain. Yeah, we're gonna break it down very simply today. It's gonna be the simplest I've ever seen this asset with the greatest clarity I've ever seen it, which is interesting. Franco, good morning, Noah. FXS going to the moon. FPI. We talked about Frax. It's a bit. Uh, it's interesting. Danny from Abra loves Terra UST. I like that too, and I don't have any conflict whatsoever with him not aligning with Frax. That's trivial. I think he's brilliant. I think Do Kwon and the Luna ecosystem is brilliant, and I think Sam over at Frax is brilliant. I think there's so many freaking brilliant people. There's a lot of brilliance to go around, so it's all good. I guess that's the sentiment I want to express. There's opportunity overload in the crypto space. You can never hit all this stuff. You can never, from a development perspective, you can never partner with everyone. So there's some tough choices. We have a lot of tough choices presented to us. And, you got to make some serious bets. That's what Buffett always said. Make some serious bets. You got to make some concentrated bets. And that's what I've done myself and encourage folks probably to do. I don't I don't want people to make the wrong bets. Go 50% of the Shiba Inu, and you sure as hell don't put 10% of your portfolio into Ampleforth because I guarantee you're going to lose 50% of your money. But you're not going to understand that 50% is only transitory. So that's what we're going to hit on. I'm going to keep this chart up to remind me to get back on topic. Franco likes FXS. I do too. I got a 4-year lock on my FXS. 4 years. I'm going to see what happens. FM staking pulse chain will be income. No, a good idea. Well, the odds are if it's anything like Ethereum, it's going to turn out decent from a monetary policy perspective, as long as it's disinflationary, heading towards deflation. That's a heck of a monetary policy. It's not something I'm interested in. It's new, and I don't like new. I like tried, tested, mother approved. I like stuff that's old, and I very rarely ever participated in a protocol that's new. The only time I really participated in something that's new was Convex. I took a hefty position with Spell, um, both before an OTC deal as well as after. So I had Spell prior to taking a large OTC derived position, and also padding that position after the OTC deal. So those happen to be some of my best trades. Obviously that they were in my discomfort zone, so they had the largest risk profile. So never early, never late is something I often say. FM, and it's just something I don't have a need to allocate to. Only you can subjectively assess whether it's good or bad. It's a clone of Ethereum, which means it's going to have all the contracts, but there's going to be no front ends, no user interface, no nothing. It's going to be a completely naked blockchain. What does that mean? It's kind of uncharted territory in many regards. It's very speculative. Professor J, good morning. Kill, it's a pleasure. Dan, morning. Noah, looking forward to this. This is a good one today. Igor, hey Noah, what do you think about the fourth token? No idea. I think sure you need a governance asset, but I think their governance isn't very mature currently. I don't think there's much to mature about Ampleforth, the token itself, the protocol, the monetary policy. It's a relatively straightforward monetary policy. What they could do is expand to other chains, and they got the Ampleforth, the bridge, and that's big. That it doesn't take much to make something incredible. The more I look at it, well, I'm gonna discuss as soon as I talk to everyone. Menace, hello. Stian, hello. More lobby in the house. Rotations back into Avalanche. Not for me. I'm kind of passive, very passive nowadays. I'm not doing much. I got work and family that I'm focusing on, which really goes into how I'm looking at something like an Ampleforth. Hope I'm having a wonderful day, Subhan. Pleasure to me. Cheers, matey. Great to listen to you in the car on the way to freedom. I hope so, for as many as possible. Thanks for all the alpha drops, Subhan. It's a pleasure. In Coomers, we are in Cooming, day in, day out around these parts. Foo Bear in the house. Ditto. Caught you in the Twitter spaces yesterday. Yeah, that's a bit of a nice conversation we had. I like that crew. It sounds good. I like talk radio. Huh. I think I'm gonna have to stop by there more often. I like those boys. And I think I can help more people, which is what I've always tried to do with my stream. My stream never really got that far. There's only 6 and change thousand subscribers. Like I got like Chico Crypto Army, couple 100,000. But I think I help more than less, and that's the whole point of doing all this. So less people are buying Shiba Inu, and more people are buying stuff like Curve, but Curve early, because obviously we're very late cycle at this point. But we've been buying Curve since 40 cents, right, guys? We've been buying Curve since 40 cents, right, guys? So you see my point. We've been talking about a lot of these productive assets that give you revenue streams since they were pennies, and now that they're $3, $4, $5, it's late cycle. It's post 1,000% gains. So you should expect 50% drawdowns. And that's why maybe I'm very drawn to Ampleforth, because you're guaranteed to have a 50% drawdown. So what does that mean? Is that bad? And I don't think it is. I got promoted to admiral. Ditto. Kill us. I agree. A TED talk would be great. That'd be cool. But I don't know. Just stick to my YouTube. Igor, you lock FXS on the Frax website. Food Bear, you're going to lose 50%, but only for 1% of your life unless you make it permanent. Unless you make it well said, and that 50% loss is transitory. You guys see the chart? We'll talk about it in 2 seconds. A couple more comments I'll respond to. Subhan, do you only invest in projects where the token coin actually has utility? Yes. 100% of the portfolio is revenue generating. Sean, be out of the game for a while. What's the best play if you're sitting on Ethereum these days? It's kind of hard because Ethereum has a lot of opportunity cost. It's not a very uh, it's not a very functional asset. It's collateral, so you're able to collateralize it to take on a debt position, which you could turn into a functional position that generates cash flow. Ethereum doesn't generate a lot of cash flow, but Ethereum is a foundational um, asset, part of the crypto ecosystem, and it has its place because it has its history, it has its momentum, it has its adoption, so on and so forth. Reminds me of Bitcoin in so many regards. Um, I think there's a lot of opportunity cost associated with it, but that doesn't necessarily mean something bad. I always say I'm not going to make as much money as possible. So in that regard, there's nothing wrong with an Ethereum position having opportunity cost. It's a passive play. Over the coming years, Ethereum is going to appreciate as long as its significance continues to increase uh, with regard to its functional utility. Let me fix my camera. Um, so that's something you DCA into over time. That's a nice course of action. But you're probably going to want to over collateralize with like a three on the health factor on an Aave. So you're only going to borrow. You have 100 grand. You're only going to borrow like 30 grand worth of stablecoins from your Ethereum to be safely collateralized in the case of significant deflationary impulses. So you only got 30 grand worth of working capital. You only got a 30% loan to value ratio. That's not very effective at producing or being efficient or efficiently or effectively using your equity because you need to safely over collateralize. Um, that's my point. Just sit back and relax, and there's plenty of ways to look at the space and DCAing and preserving capital. The whole Bitcoin maximalist ideology, that's cool. You do something similar with Ethereum. I definitely don't agree with Bitcoin maximalists that other assets don't have value. I think tech is extremely valuable. If anything, I align more so with the way Raul talks, that tech is going to significantly outperform even Bitcoin. So what's the outperforming tech? I mean, Tesla, Microsoft, and Apple are going to outperform Bitcoin, I expect. So what's the outperforming tech? The fintech in the crypto space. The stuff that we deal with, that's going to really outperform the crap out of Bitcoin. So I even think Ethereum is going to outperform Bitcoin. But I still would recommend Bitcoin as a great position for the general public. There's going to be a lot of opportunity cost, but in order to overcome that opportunity cost requires a hell of a technological and financial education, which is not necessarily something the vast majority of the population will be able to do. Just not possible. Anyway, I want to get to Ampleforth at some point. Sean, hope that helps. Cartoy, what's up? Got Vortex, good morning. We the people. Curve. Curve, I expect a 10x, and then I expect it to get hammered. I am prepared for it to hit 30, and I'm prepared to get freaking hammered to like $8. So someone's going to buy at 30, it's going to get hammered to $8, and I'm going to be up thousands of percent because my entry is like at 40 cents. So that's probably the way I see at least the midterm, like the next year playing out. And then obviously over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years, $30 probably is small. It's a very speculative, very broad statement, but that's like my gut instinct. I'm not saying $300 in the next 5 years, but I'm saying it's going to get a period of irrational exuberance, along with all assets. It's inevitable. It's what the crypto space historically has done, and it's going to get hammered. I mean, look what Bitcoin did. It ripped to 20 grand. Everyone thought it was never going to go back to 20. If Bitcoin rips to a quarter mil and it crashes to 60 grand, whoever bought at $300 doesn't give a crap that it's 60 grand. It went to quarter mil and it crashed to 60 grand. Come on. So that's a good part of the way I'm looking at a lot of these assets over a long enough time horizon. No one that bought Curve at 40 cents gives a crap that it's going to crash speculatively from $30 to $8. That's the bottom line. And anyone who bought Curve at 40 cents, who holds it from $30 to $8, you know how much money they have at $8? How much money there is at $8? So no one cares. There's no reason to sell anymore. Because it's not just Bitcoin where you're sitting on it and you're watching the value go up and down. The entire time you're making a certain amount of money. You're making returns. You're making income. You're incoming from your Curve. Oh, it went to $30. You have 20 mil. Oh, it crashed to eight bucks, and you have you know, oh, the horror. You have $4 million. The horror. The horror. $4 million making, let's say the yield crashes to 30%. Oh, the horror. You get 30% on 4 mil. The horror. You got in at 40 cents. You got in you bought 200 grand worth of Curve at 40 cents, and at $8 it's worth 4 mil. Oh, the horror. Anyway, I hope what I'm saying makes sense. But it's about time horizon. It's really about time horizon and perspective. And it's about late entries. You could buy Curve now, but you really got to DCA it, and you got to expect it to get hammered hard. These markets are going to get hammered at some point, absolutely hammered. Let's keep it going. Mathis in the house. Diesel Hound. I understand Ample, but the accounting I don't understand. Well, you understand an asset, but the way the price action is because the price action is irrelevant. That's what's so fascinating that I've realized the price action is irrelevant. Dan, are you specifically voting for certain bribes on Vodium? Yeah, I tend to take the spell bribes. One is lucrative, and if it wasn't for the spell bribe, I'd probably take the Frax bribe. That's a lucrative too. I don't know. Spell just paid me $5,000 last week. That was awesome. But if I did Frax, it'd probably be about 4,500. They're throwing around like $1 million a week. That's crazy. Sarah, what are the ways to benefit from Ample you can discuss? Well, I don't want to. The point of my conversation isn't to give people reason to allocate or not allocate. If you're allocating more than 1% to this type of position, probably taking on more risk than you should be. The vast majority, if you have $100,000 portfolio, you should allocate, $1,000 or less, unless you really, really understand the position. Because otherwise, if you have a $100,000 portfolio and you put $50,000 in, you're going to lose your money. That $50,000 is going to turn into $25,000, and you might not know what to do. You might not know why that's happening. So it's going to devastate the crap out of your portfolio as well as you emotionally, unless you're prepared. I mean, this is the chart. This is the price action chart. Ignore the history. Ignore here, because that's where it launched. Ignore that irrational exuberance. Let's look at this. So you have some spikes. You have price action spikes up to 250, whatever. Very transitory up to 250. The vast majority, I would say, is, let's say, right about there. Was that a buck 50, 75, 60? No, even higher, because that's just very transitory. Let's go right about there. 75 cents to $1.50. Maybe if you take some averages and you go down to about there. That looks like a good price region. 73 cents to a buck 30. The asset operates in a range. Now, this is all new. Here, let me get the different tool. This is all new activity. And the reason it's behaving like this is because people are trying to figure out what the heck is going on with Aave and what does that mean for the capital flow. So the reason people get confused with this asset is because they're looking at the price. But the price is designed to operate between a range, which means there's transitory periods of opportunistic liquidation. That's all the price means. What's pertinent is percent of pie ownership. Now, this is my conclusions and observations of late, because that's what even the Ampleforth team talks about. Is if no matter what the rebase does, you own the same amount percent of the pie, the total circulating supply. Then what's the power? The power comes from owning more and more of percent circulating supply. So it's not just more Ampleforth. It's more Ampleforth at any given point in time relative to the total percent of supply. So just participating in a rebase doesn't do jack shit. Clearly, participating in a rebase could potentially be capital gains opportunistic, because you're doubling the amount of coins you have. If you're getting like an 8% rebase, you can sell it and you make a profit. There's some short-term shit. And that's also some legacy financial shit, where people are trying to buy low, sell high with an asset that has literally just is designed to fluctuate between a price region. This is an aberration. Our current price, this is outside the bounds of anything that's normal, in my opinion. We'll fall back into this range, and then people that bought at $2 are going to be like, "What the fuck? I'm just down at $1.22. I lost 30% of my money, 40% of my money." So you forget about the price. The price is irrelevant, which means, all right, over a year, if the amount of ample you have is up 20%, 30%, or whatever, 2% a day compounded, it's up a bajillion percent. You don't want to sell it when it's low in price. You don't want to sell it when it's 80 cents, because you know that the negative rebases are going to drive up the price. You wait for the price to go up, and then you could liquidate some. So what does the price mean to me? The price means there's transitory periods of opportunistic liquidation. So you wait for the best time to liquidate. If you need capital when it's low, you could sell it, but you know you have opportunity cost. If you're going to sell some ample when it's low, all you had to do was wait a period of time for the price to go back up to range. The rebasing will push the price back up, and you liquidate at a better price. So liquidating at a low price is just opportunity cost, because it will go back up. It's inevitable. It's what the protocol does. What the rebasing does. So the price action is just about opportunity cost and time required for a better liquidation price. Okay, so get price out. Price means nothing. So how do you capitalize? How do you profit? Or how do you engage with this asset? Has nothing to do with price. You're looking at the wrong chart. What matters is your percent ownership. And this is another way to look at it. This was an interesting one some folks in my Discord forum uncovered. It basically just shows there's periods of positive rebases and periods of negative rebases. And what's pertinent is percent pie ownership. So someone on Twitter said that folks lending on Aave are getting hammered. I'd argue there's a couple of different ways to look at it. Just two different ways. One, someone lending on Aave is selling the rebase, a good portion of it. If there's a 6% rebase and you're getting 2% compounded continuously lending, you're selling 4.6% rebase for the passive strategy. And I think that's meaningful. So someone would say, "Oh, but you're missing out." I don't give a fuck if I'm missing out on additional revenue. I don't have time for this shit. I don't have time for this shit. I'm serious. As simple as that. I don't have time to deposit uh, stable coins or liquidity into Aave to borrow Ampleforth. I don't have time for this. I don't have time to wait for a rebase at 10 p.m. on a daily basis to liquidate all the ample, to repay the debt, to sell for stable coins, to add to my collateral, to borrow more, to borrow ample again, if there's any ample to borrow. Because I'm pretty sure there's bots at this point that are buying the crap out of ample. So what's that mean? That means that it's not easy. There's a lot of work required to actively manage an ample borrow side position. There's more gains to be made. So, as this shows, there's about 4.6% daily more gains to be made with the borrow side active strategy. But I don't have time for that shit. I'm a passive boy. 2% compounded continuously. I'm more than happy to pay someone 4% so that I can have my cushy, sit back on the beach, feet up 2%. So, what is this? Where am I heading with these trains of thought? If I'm getting 2% compounded continuously, great, I'm missing out on 4%. No big deal. For me, no big deal. I talk about that all the time. I will not make as much money as possible. 2% is a ridiculous amount of capital on a daily basis. So that's the not greedy approach. So what does that 2% mean? That 2% means I'm growing my percent ownership compounded daily. The 4%, the 6% is more. So if you're exposed to the rebase, you're not growing your percent of the pie. If you're getting 2% compounded continuously, you're growing the quantity of Ampleforth you have. So at some point, you're going to have more of the total pie because you're not exposed to the positive rebase. When rebases go negative, here's the kicker. When rebases go negative, nobody's going to borrow, which means what you're lending is going to be totally exposed to the rebase. And you're not going to lose any percent of the pie. And that's the mechanism right there that you have to understand. You want to own, the goal is to own more of the pie. So I would argue as long as there's periods of time where there's more positive rebases than negative, and the 2% compounded continuously does produce a greater percent of pie ownership, the periods of negative rebase have no effect. The periods of negative rebase do not decrease percent of pie ownership. So if the 2% compounded daily is in fact increasing pie ownership, to what degree, that's the profit margin. That's the growth of the position. Pie ownership. So instead of thinking about price, the price is irrelevant. It's percent pie ownership. And when I say pie, I mean total percent of circulating supply, the percent of that pie. Now, if that's the goal and your percent of pie is increasing, you have periods of opportunistic liquidation depending on price action, the chart that we're looking at right now. And that's the whole thing. You're going to watch the value of that position fluctuate dramatically, 30, 40, 50, 60%, 70, 80%. But the pie should be growing over time. And as long as that's occurring, the position is sound. And that's the bottom line. And I found that fascinating when I saw that. The red herring is dollar denomination. Dollar denomination throws people off. Now, if you buy up here outside of the prevailing price region, that just increases time horizon. If you buy down here if you got it below $1, you have a shorter time horizon to get to a more profit, more percent pie ownership. Up here, once it gets back into region, you're going to lose some of your pie. But that's where 87,000% compounded daily makes all the difference. You're going to grow your pie. Now, then the argument really is active management versus passive. I don't have time for active management, so I prefer the passive. Not getting hammered, you're just making less, significantly less, but less. It's okay not to make as much money as possible. That's something I say often. I hope that helps. And that's the way I'm looking at the position. So be prepared for your position to get cut in half. Be prepared for the dollar denomination of the position to get hammered 30, 40, 50, 60%. It's going to happen. But then check back over time as 2% is compounded daily. More ample, more ample, more ample keeps on coming in, compounding as long as there's a positive rebase on the table. And a negative rebase does not decrease your pie ownership. That's the kicker right there. The negative rebase, no one's going to be borrowing. You're not losing pie ownership. Therefore, if you're in more periods of positive rebase, you're going to be getting 2% compounded daily, growing your pie ownership. I hope that helps clarify it. I know that's a massive, massive thing to try and digest. And the only doubt that I hesitate on for a second is, can 2% compounded, and what scenarios does 2% compounded continuously not increase pie ownership? And I welcome feedback on that one. Hit me up on Twitter. But as long as 2% compounded continuously increases pie ownership, it's a heck of a position. Because negative rebases don't decrease pie ownership. Increase pie ownership over periods of time with transitory periods of opportunistic price point. Opportunistic transitory periods with price points offering opportunistic liquidation. I don't know, some shit like that. That's some deep stuff, right? That's some deep stuff. Let's fix that green screen one more time. Supan, how does one gain financial knowledge and tech knowledge you're talking about? Asking for a friend because I just read shit. Well, I don't know, my friend. I don't know. Realvision.com. Start there. That's where I started. It's not so easy. Daniel, MIM UST pool, much better yield on convex versus just MIM pool. Creates significant more risk. Unknown? We'll see. You only know how much risk you took in hindsight. But I look forward to those plays. I think they're going to be a big deal. Critical Mass is in the house. Professor J, where are you putting Curve and Rook? Curve goes into CVX CRV. Rook is just a long position. Rook it's not there yet. It's not there. It's not a utility asset yet. So it's speculatively a utility asset. So there's reasons to be bullish, but what's the point if you're not generating revenue on a daily basis? It has a ways to go. They need to work on the monetary policy. Oh, not the monetary policy. They need to work on having the asset, give you cash flow. And if an asset doesn't have cash flow, boys and girls, there's no point in holding it. Assets better be paying you a shitload of money to hold them. If they're not, you guys are missing out. That's, I think, the best thing I could say. John, first time catching the live stream. It's very much a pleasure. I hope it helps. Long on time here. I like time. I want to buy it at the cash-free price. I want to buy time here. So the whole point of time is that over time, even if it gets hit like 50, 60, 70% loss, 72,000% over time, it's going to make up for it. But I want to buy time when it gets back to the backing. So this will probably go up 1,500, but then crypto hits this extreme deflationary impulse, and maybe the backing goes down to 1,000 from 1,500, or 2,000 goes down to 1,000, and time goes down to 2,000 from 10,000, or 4,000 from 20,000. I want to buy time when it's closer to the backing per time in an extreme deflationary impulse. So I want to buy time at the bottom. This is the complexity with buying late in the cycle. People are not prepared to take a 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% hit on their asset. And legacy finance can't even digest that. They have no idea what the fuck that means. 50, 60, 70% on their asset. Because the money comes back when something's ripping 30, 40, 72,000%. The value comes back no matter how much of a hit you take on the principal. And they don't have any perspective on the future of the market. There's nothing wrong with a 50, 60, 70% hit on a position, and probably even the portfolio for that matter. So this is where I'd like to buy it. Backing per time, baby. It'll get there sooner or later. L, better look at market cap chart. Yes, the market cap is meaningful. As long as the market cap's going up, your yield, people are going to be borrowing because market cap go up means you have positive rebases. So that's basically what you're looking at when the market cap with the market cap chart. Luca, are there any assets you're now in that are equivalent to curve at 40 cents? 100% zero because you're late in the market. There is no early entries right now in the market. You will not find anything that is an early entry in the market. This is a late time in the market. Anyone trying to take a position now has to understand it is late cycle. There has been a lot of irrational exuberance over the last 2 years. Folks are late. It's been almost 2 years. You're getting into a market that has been on fire for almost 2 years. Food for thought. That doesn't mean you can't take positions, but be prepared to get hammered on those positions. And then be prepared to wait another 2 years, 3 years for the value to come back. It comes back. And it's different this time. We'll only know in hindsight how that difference manifests, but 100% it's different this time. There's yield, there's utility, there's capital flow, there's velocity, and there's no reason for capital to exit the crypto space anymore. So it is different this time. How that difference manifests is another story. Time horizons are also in question. I don't think capital sits stagnant for 2 years. That doesn't make much sense. It's going to be very interesting how things play out over the coming years. We, the crypto people, all that matters is the APY and the ability to see the time horizon. Most do see it. Most don't see it, never will. I think that's what you meant. All that matters. Yeah, most don't see it, never will. Yeah, it's hard. Time horizon is hard, guys. I mean, you tell someone you're going to make 2% daily compounded and you're going to get hit 50%. You can take $1 million. It's going to turn into $500,000. But the 2% daily compounded at the end of the year, you're going to have what, $750,000? But you have twice as much Ample. So when the price of Ample goes back up because positive rebases or the negative rebases decrease circulating supply, driving price back up, and the price of Ample goes back to $1.50, $2, an opportunistic price point for liquidation. Now you have twice as much Ample. You have 1.5 million. So if you had a transitory period where the position was significantly lower, you lost 25%, you're at 750,000 instead of the million, but the second Ample's price went back up, now you have 1.5 million, you could liquidate some of it. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. Percent pi ownership increase over time, transitory periods of opportunistic price point liquidation. That's Ampleforth. Crypto Henry, some serious big brain action going on. Maybe. Either that, I belong in a loony bin. I don't know which one sometimes. If you buy at $1.50 when Apple market cap is 100 mil, it's better than buying at $1 when Apple market cap is 200 mil. Well, if you're buying at $1, you're probably going to have negative rebase. I think they have a price target of a little bit higher than $1. So a negative rebase is, yeah, see, $1.06. I don't know. That's a tough one to digest. No point in looking at price chart for Apple, just look at the market cap. Yes, 100% I agree. Manet seems like passive is much better option for smaller bags considering gas fees. Yeah, yeah, damn right. That's a very true statement. Gas fees are very expensive for smaller bags. You're not going to be able to operate on Ethereum L1. The gas fees are a fortune. You're talking about $100 a transaction, $200 a transaction. Now, I appreciate the complexity. Go over to Phantom, go over to Avalanche, go over to obviously Polygon. Arbitrum is going to be relatively expensive. You're still going to be at $30 a transaction at times. There's plenty of opportunity. There's opportunity overload. And the last thing you should be doing is complaining about Ethereum L1 gas fees because that's what drives all of this. That's where the people with 9 figures, 100 mil, are flying around. That's where the billionaires, their capital is flowing on Ethereum L1. And some of them dabble on the other chains, some of them. But you don't need to, because the biggest and best opportunities are really on Ethereum L1 in most regards. There's very few serious opportunities on the other chains, like a Wonderland. That's cool, but I'm gonna wait for a better entry point. I want that. I want like $2,000. If I could get in at $2,000, and the market's red, everyone's screaming and crying and fearful. Whoa, I lost all my. That's when I buy. That's when I would take my position, because that's a heck of a revenue stream. Not now. I don't have the position now because I didn't get in when I should have. So I have to wait for the opportunity, the price point that is an opportunity. Um, PC, if lending pool during positive rebase, you grow your pie at a slower rate. Naked holding during negative rebases, your pie shrink. No, but your pie isn't shrinking. That's the thing. During a negative rebase, your pie isn't shrinking because at a negative rebase, no one's borrowing. A negative rebasing, your percent pie ownership is unaffected. The thing is, with the negative rebase, no one's borrowing, so the entire lending pool is exposed to the negative rebase. Percent pie ownership remains completely unchanged. When you're lending, you're not exposed to the rebase, which means percent pie ownership grows at 2% compounded continuously. And here, I think that's actually the observation. As long as 2% compounded continuously is greater than the accumulation of the daily rebases, that means uh, you're outperforming the borrow side of the position, if that makes sense. So 2% compounded daily needs to be more. So right now, obviously at $1.70, you're getting very large positive rebases. But look, down at $1.20, you're getting 2%. So obviously 2% compounded continuously is significantly greater than 2% on the daily. So the passive side of the pool looks like that's the tight range. The passive side of the pool, passive side of the lending position, is performs better at $1.28 or less, and above $1.28, the borrow side of the lending position outperforms the lending side. But that's that. If you're interested in outperformance, and that's exactly what I described to you folks. I'm not interested in outperformance. I'm interested in passive. So I'm selling. That outperformance so they do the work. So that keeps the passive flow coming in. I don't know. I hope that helps. That's some deep stuff right there. Um, During negative rebase, if there is underbarred liquidity, the operating pool is impacted by negative rebase, and your pie does shrink. No, your pie doesn't shrink during any rebase. That's the point. Your percent pie ownership does not shrink during any rebase. So as long as 2% compounded continuously effectively grows your percent of the pie, the position is a sound trade. So I believe that occurs at the $1.28 region. So above $1.28, the borrow side of the position is doing much better than the lending side. But below the $1.28, 2% compounded daily is going to outperform. If you guys see that. So right about there. So here's your sweet spot for lending. Here, check it out. 28. What was I adjusting? No, I don't want to draw. Here. So right now, borrow side is outperforming. But actually, this is a great box. Check this out. I don't know what the I don't even think you need the bottom side because the bottom side doesn't matter. And yeah, negative rebase. So $1.06. That's the sweet spot. Anything below this box and your percent pi ownership does nothing. It's just dormant. The position is dormant. It's not growing. Anything above this and borrowers are outperforming. This is the sweet spot where the lenders are outperforming the borrowers and percent pi ownership is growing. Interesting, huh? At least that's what it looks like to me. Based on this chart, 2% compounded daily must be greater than the rebase, which means 2% compounded continuously is greater than 2% on the daily. So that's an interesting one. I wonder what percent of the time positive rebase is greater than 0 but less than 2%. Whoever has a capacity to run that calculation, grab this URL. I want to know what percent of time Ampleforth is running at a positive rebase but less than 2%. That's a very interesting number if we could get that metric. Let me fix my camera and I'm going to wrap up the stream, guys. There we go. Last couple of questions. Mr. Rational, check Twitter, and I'm here. Alex, it's a pleasure. Josh, I'm opening a new pie shop right beside the pizza shop. Always a pleasure. Bear in mind, don't speculate. If you're going to get hammered on this position. This is a very difficult position. This is 1% of my portfolio. Don't play with anything more than 1% of the portfolio. Take an excess risk, and I definitely don't want to encourage excess risk. We, the crypto people, more of a reason than ever to buy Ample at a buck. At a buck, sure. A buck 06, you're probably going to have a negative rebase. Well, here's the price region. This is the opportunistic lending price region, it appears. Not bad. The active, I don't even want to think of the active side. That's too much for me, Adam. You outperform with the active side. Active side, this is here. This is the active side. The active side is above the box. There are very few periods of, but bear in mind that's the thing actually. When you're above this purple box, the borrowing side of Aave significantly outperforms to the tune of 4% a day. That's the deal. Now you're paying 2% a day of the 6 and change, so like 6.8. Check this out. You got 6.7% on the fourth, but you paid 2% of it to the lenders. So you got 4 and change percent of the daily after fees. And there's that Twitter post by, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he showed the breakdown. I mean, he made like 150 grand in a week. So he can make some serious money. But look, that is rare. Look at these periods of outperformance above the purple box. Very transitory. You're talking about days, only a couple of days at a clip. And this is some new shit, this circled period right here, because this is where the markets are just coming online, the money markets. What's the long-term mission with Rook? Very speculative in that it could be a revenue producer. It's an MEV extraction protocol that extracts value from the miners, preventing front running and preventing sandwich attacks, so on and so forth. So it's not something you really should ask me. That's just a basic due diligence question, Alex. Gotta check in on an asset. You gotta understand what an asset is doing before allocating any value to it. It doesn't generate revenue. There's no utility in the asset currently, so it's a spec asset. That's how I would define it. Go Vortex, raw Ample versus Ample and Aave versus Geyser. Well, Geyser is just a little bit of a bonus. So if you throw like 100 grand in, you're getting an extra 30, 40 grand a year. That's cool. So the Geyser is designed to incentivize this entire system. Raw Ample versus Ample and Aave. I don't know about raw Ample, but the money market, I've digested the money market mostly. Borrow side versus lending side. So the borrow side versus lending side really is this purple box, and that's fascinating because I just did this on stream with you guys. Raw, Ample, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Sri Ram, is Ample like Ohm and Time just a Ponzu coin? No, and Ohm and Time aren't Ponzu coins. Well, Ponzu, not Ponzi, so fine, okay. No, it's not. It's very different, and frankly, I think they're all very meaningful. Um, I mean, Ohm and Time are building treasuries, so there's periods where the price point is divergent from the risk-free value. If this loads, oh, that's why. There's periods in time where the price point is divergent from the backing per time, and that's because of irrational exuberance. But the whole point is there should be a mean regression to this at some point, 2,000, 3,000, and that's why it's building a treasury. Very different protocols, Ohm versus Time versus Ampleforth, and they are nothing alike whatsoever. So to answer your question, no, they're not even remotely comparable. Subtle things like the rebase component, but that's trivial compared to really their macro function. Lending is good if positive rebase stays 3%. Yes, well, actually, it turns out it's about 2%. Where the 2% compounded continuously is greater than the positive rebase on the daily. That's specifically what it is, PC. And that's just outperformance. That means the lender is outperforming the borrower. But that's not a bad thing. I like paying premiums for passive plays. I don't want to make as much money as possible. I want to do as little work as possible. So if I'm getting 2% compounded continuously, I don't care if the borrower is making 6%. I'm doing no work. So to me, that sounds like a good deal. I'll pay the difference, and that, in fact, that's what the equation is. If the borrower is making 6% compounded daily, and I'm making 2% compounded continuously, I'm paying the borrower to do that work for me that's generating the 2% compounded continuously. How about them apples? Asun, thank you for all the help and showing the different ways to trade and earn income. Yeah, my man, it's I think that's a very simplified way to put it. This is some complicated stuff, but what else are we going to talk about? This is good stuff right here. One, so do you ever need to borrow Ample on Aave to benefit from the made APY from the rebase? You just hold Ample and sell it if the rebase starts going negative. I wouldn't do any of that. You need to rethink, maybe rewatch this video, please. I got to wrap up the stream, though. I'm sorry. I'm going to cut it short. I got a meeting I got to get to. Thank you all for joining. Thursday, November 4th, 11:33 a.m. As always, tell everyone to subscribe. After party on Discord. I wish you all a wonderful day. Pop some ass vids. I got caught up this morning, and I will see you again tomorrow. Catch you then.